Today I want to talk about soldering something very odd, like this wire rope. And what I'm going to show today applies to any kind of odd soldering on ferrous metals, stainless steels, all of that kind of weird stuff. I've soldered a lot of random things. So let's just talk about this, and you can take everything that I'm saying and apply it to whatever else you might be soldering, even if it's not wire rope, but it's some other ferrous metal. First thing with wire rope is you want to have a nice clean cut. You can buy wire rope cutters, but I just made some out of these bulldog snips here because you need almost like a shearing action so that when you cut it, it doesn't fray. See how that keeps the end together. Now I'm going to fold this over into a loop. And I know they make crimps for these, but I don't have any, and I need these cables. All right, I'm going to wrap this copper around the wire rope kind of tightly. Doesn't have to be perfect, but this is just going to add some strength and also provide more surface area for more solder. Just like that. Okay. I just crushed it in a vise. And then I'm going to cut these with flush cutters. The difference between flush cutters and regular cutters, well, let me just do it on this one right here. Flush, so this was cut with like regular wire cutters. Well, maybe not. Might have been flush cutters. There's regular wire cutters. You see how sharp that is? Now, if you look at flush cutters, they tend to cut a lot more straight. I don't know why that end messed up. I might have been doing it at a bad angle or something. But they cut very straight. Or no, I know why it messed up, because it was the scrap that fell off. The end that I actually cut is straight. Sorry. So they're just not sharp anymore. Okay, I'm gonna put this in my little helping hands thingy. Now, when you're soldering weird metals like this, anything ferrous, you have got to use a liquid acid flux. You need a flux that's aggressive, first of all, so that it cleans the surface. But you also need a flux that's going to stay active at a higher temperature, and that's what this stuff does. Because you have to get like stainless steels and all that kind of stuff hotter than copper in order for them to take solder. You also want to use a really good solder, like Stay Bright 8. Regular I've soldered a ton of stuff with this little small stuff, with that smaller, and that's just regular Stay Bright, just 4% silver. I think this is 6% silver, if I'm not mistaken, even though it's called Stay Bright 8. Go figure. All right, I'm going to apply my flux now. And you can probably see it starting to bubble. You can see it's starting to turn white. Kind of stinks too. Probably giving off maybe chlorine. I think it's hydrochloric acid. All right, now I'm using an oversized torch, so I just have to be a lot more careful to control my heat. And like always with any soldering, you want your base metal to melt your solder, not your torch. So I'm going to heat this and touch it, heat it and touch it until it's ready, and then I'm going to dump solder into that joint. That flux is starting to bubble off, and that's how I know it's ready. Just going to keep the heat on there. And it looks like we got a little drip. Oh, okay. If you touch, don't touch molten solder, but if you do it fast, it's not a big deal. And I want to leave it clamped. I do not want to touch this until it cools, because if you do, see, I've got this wire rope kind of crushed, And if I go releasing this clamp while this is in the middle of drying, it's liable to create a crack in that solder joint. So once it is good and dry, like it is now, I'm gonna take it out of there, and then I'm just gonna dunk it in some baking soda water. And you can see that right there. That's the flux coming off there. I don't want that acid inside of that wire rope continuing to eat at it. So that is one of the drawbacks of this acid flux, is it is very aggressive and it stays aggressive. But normally if you dunk your stuff in some baking soda water, I have not had problems with corrosion after that. And if it's really critical, I'll put ATF on there, just regular transmission fluid, and for whatever reason ATF just totally eats off rust, prevents rust. It's weird, but it is great for rust. So you can see that penetrated into the actual cable very, very nicely.